Welcome to the deep dive tutorial on how to configure and create your own lotto prediction. And there's going to be a lot of information in this particular tutorial. It's not going to be for everyone. So Illuminati Magic are more than happy to create the background images for you and to do all the desktop publishing and the graphic image editing to get you up and going. But if you want to create your own effects and modify them at will, then this tutorial is going to go into how to create those background images. There's lots of different options that we're seeing performers utilize when doing a lotto prediction. So I just want to cover those off because each of those will change how you configure the image processing platform. So some performers, they're fortunate enough to be able to get genuine lotto paper. So this is the actual lotto paper from a news agency, which is the real paper. It's pre-printed with the color graphics on there. If you're fortunate enough to be able to get the real lotto paper, then you can take the real lotto paper and then we just want to print the black sections of the reveal. That's not necessarily the case for everybody. Not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to source real lotto paper. So what we have done, we've recreated the vast majority of every state and country's lotto ticket. If one doesn't already exist, please get in contact with us and we'll create you your very own custom one. In this example here, I have the Michigan Lotto Ticket. This has been recreated through our desktop publisher. And so he's created this ticket. I then printed this out on top of thermal paper. So this is normal thermal paper. It was a A4 sheet of thermal paper. I actually printed 4 of these tickets. And then I've trimmed these tickets down to the correct size for my prediction. So that's all well and good that I've got a blank lotto ticket. And now I can choose about what information I want to print. Now, some performers prefer to print the entirety of the information. So this is include the black logo, the time, the date, the little bylines about where it was purchased, and of course the lotto numbers themselves. So that takes fractionally longer to print. So if you're printing just the lotto numbers and nothing else, then that probably takes 1 to 2 seconds. If you're printing entire black background, that probably takes 4 to 5 seconds. And often what we'll see people do is they'll fold the lotto ticket to make it a little bit more convincing. And then the folded ticket can be inserted into Scribe and printed just the lotto numbers. I'm going to run you through each of those configuration options. So just to run through them again, original lotto paper, which is blank and you print all of the black. Another option is that you use our Adobe Illustrator files and print your own background. And that could be a background just the color, or it could be the background of the color plus the back, excluding the lotto numbers. So that's the 3 options that people have. That's using it with Scribe. If you're trying to create an image prediction, so not printing it, but you might be there holding the lotto ticket in your hand and you want to superimpose the lotto numbers in a virtual presentation, then that's yet another effect. The image processor can do all of these. It's just a case of how you configure the platform. So the next chapter, we're going to go on to using Adobe Illustrator to create and export out all the images. So with that, we'll flip across to the next section. In this chapter, we're going to cover how to use Adobe Illustrator to customize your lotto ticket. So as we alluded to in the prior chapter, you can get either lotto tickets, the genuine lotto paper that you source from a news agency, or you can use our Adobe Illustrator files and print your own. So I've got some existing printed tickets just here. So this is actually printed directly from my color inkjet printer using this exact file. So as you can see at the moment, within this Adobe Illustrator file, we've recreated a Michigan Lotto Ticket from scratch. So we have a look at that. We have a look at these layers on board. So let's go to the layer section. And you see we've got a list of all these layers coming down here. So that's the real Michigan Lotto ticket. So what we did is we scanned in a real Michigan Lotto ticket. After we scanned it in, we placed it into the background of Adobe Illustrator, and then we recreated that from scratch. So if I turn on I'll turn off all these layers. So that's the original Lotto ticket. And now I'm just going to turn off, I'm going to turn on our recreation. And there we go. So we can see this is what the real Lotto ticket will look like. Now, if you want to create just the background image, so if you can't source the genuine Michigan Lotto paper, we want to be able to print this out on our inkjet printer. So to do that, I need to turn off all this black thermally printed information. So I've got a layer here, I just turn that off. Now it depends on your preference, because sometimes some customers prefer to pre-print everything except for the actual Lotto numbers themselves. Let's just find where those Lotto numbers are. So you can see I'm turning those Lotto numbers on and off. So you have an option, you could pre-print the Lotto ticket with the color background, with the black logos, except for the actual Lotto numbers themselves. So if you do that, we've turned on the appropriate layers. I then go into File, and I want to export this image out, export as, and then I'm going to export that as a high resolution JPEG. And I want to click the option Use Artboards. What that means is we have an artboard, we don't want everything which goes over the edge of the artboard. So for example, I'll just go back on that. So you can see here that we have an artboard around the edge. You can see this little black line. When we export it, and we export it to use the artboards, we won't get all the information above which goes off the boundary. So let me just show you that. So I'm going to go back to my file and export. Export as. Use artboards, then search for JPEG. I'm going to export it like this. So then we have options for our JPEG export. I'm exporting this at 300 dpi. So 300 dpi is about the maximum resolution that you'll get off a residential high-end inkjet printer. The quality of it is extremely high. So with this ticket, I've printed my own Lotto tickets for Western Australia. And if I look at the real Lotto ticket and my inkjet printed one, I can barely tell the difference between the two. So, but you have to get your color matching right. So again, when you print out on a color inkjet printer, sometimes the image can be brighter or more dull than the real Lotto paper, or the contrast could be different as well, so you can have deeper colors. So you need to experiment with your printer because you're going to get variances, not just from the supplied Adobe Illustrator files, but when you actually print it on your particular brand of color inkjet printer, you'll get subtle variance. I've never had anyone question it to date though. No one can quite remember what the color is, and there's even discrepancies on real lotto tickets depending on which printers they're using as well. So if I export this out, so I'm exporting it out at CYMK, the maximum resolution, and high quality. I click OK. And that's it. So now I've exported out everything except for the lotto numbers. Now, my personal preference is I print out just the color background, and I use Scribe to print all of the black information. The reason why I do that is if you pre-print the black portion on an inkjet printer, it looks subtly different to the thermally printed information. So on an inkjet printer, you'll see it's a slightly deeper black because you're actually putting black ink on top of the thermal paper. Whereas obviously with a thermally printed ticket, you're actually burning the paper to make the black. So in my preference, I would go to my layers. Now I'll just prefix that to saying that the difference is very subtle, and there's a bit of a trade-off, because if you prefer to be printing your tickets very, very quickly and perhaps folded, then that means you can print it in probably less than a second. So it's a faster print, so you don't need to print the rest of the black. And you get to pre-fold the ticket as well, which is a bit an additional convincer. But for me, I'm just going to turn off all of the black. So that layer is now turned off. I go back to my file, go to export, export as. Again, I'm going to change this to my JPEG. Use my artboard. Then click on export. And now export that out as an image. So once I've got that image, I'm just going to load up Microsoft Word for a moment now. And this is all I've done in this scenario. So as you can see, I've just inserted 4 of those images into Microsoft Word. And I'll just print those at the maximum resolution that my printer allows. So that's how you export out the background information at the highest resolution. But let's talk about if you want to print the black section. So with Scribe, the image that you're going to use you don't want this background image. Now we'll come back to that, because what I can use, I can insert that background image into Scribe. So I've got a reference, I'll see what it looks like. But that contains no black at the moment. So we're going to add the black sections except for the lotto numbers slightly later. What I'm going to do here, so now I've got the lotto ticket without the color background. Because the color background we're not going to print using Scribe, that's printed on the inkjet printer. What we're telling Scribe to do is to print the black sections under here you'll see that I don't have the lotto numbers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to export out the lotto numbers as well, but within the image editor in the Unify app, I'm going to rub these out. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to export this out as an image. And so let me just show you that. We take File, we need to export, we use this feature here. Let's change the size of the window so you can see. I'm going to zoom in so you can get a better view of that. Now, you'll see this image is all pixelated at the moment. The reason why is because I've got the incorrect width size here. So on Scribe, we have 576 thermal heads. So if I type in 576, change down my resolution so we can get a better view of that. So you can see this is the actual image that Scribe's going to print. So what I do is I'll check, I'll zoom right in and I'll have a look at what the actual pixels look like here. So if I zoom right in, so this is the information that we're exporting out, which will be going to Scribe. Now I know that we need to have the image exactly 576 bits because you've only got 576 little thermal heads on the printer. And that's what I've exported out here. I've zoomed right in. That looks pretty good to me. So I can move this around. Now, if I want to, I could increase this resolution, but I'll need to trim it back a little bit in the future. So I'll make that say 590. And often I'll be just checking that we've got everything looks, so that looks pretty good there. I can see that those letters are very well formed now. Keep in mind that we're looking on this on a big screen. Once you get the image, you know, these letters are tiny. You know, these letters are probably 3 to 4 mil in height. So I wouldn't be too concerned if we're zooming in at 800% here. As long as that looks pretty good. So with this, I'm going to export this out and save the entire image. So again, I just save here. I've already saved it on here with the actual lotto numbers, as you can see. Okay, so that is everything that you need to do. So just to recap on that, we supply you with the Adobe Illustrator files so you can modify these at will. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator experience, or you don't have a friend who's got some graphic design, just contact Illuminati Magic and we're more than happy to do all of this for you. But if you want to do it yourself, or you want the ability to be able to modify and create your own predictions, it's worthwhile investing a few hours to learn how to do it in Adobe Illustrator. If I click on the layers area, first thing what I do is I export out all these, the background image. I can choose to either export out just the color background, or I could export the color background except for the lotto numbers. Once you've exported out the color background, paste that into Microsoft Word, and then you can start printing your own lotto tickets at will. Next stage is you turn off the background image. So we've just got the black sections that we want Scribe to print on. I'm leaving the lotto numbers in here. The reason I'm going to leave them in there is I'm going to use them to overlay using the Scribe image processor, my numbers, and then I'm going to scrub out that background information. And that's it. That's all that you need to do to get everything up and going into Scribe. In the next chapter, we'll import these images into Scribe and we'll set up the final ticket. Thank you. In this chapter, we're going to create a new design within the image processor using the tickets that we just exported out of our Adobe Illustrator file. Let's jump straight into that. If we go into the image editor, go to Manage Designs. Now I've already created the design, so I'm going to go on Edit. I've got a design called the Michigan logo. So I just tap on that. So I've set this up. I've called the name Michigan logo. It's a fixed height. So I've already imported this background image. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But being a fixed height, all I did is I tapped on the image and I selected the background. So I could choose any of these backgrounds here. The one I've chosen is the one without the lotto numbers inserted, because we're going to tell the image generator where we want our lotto numbers to appear. So I'll select that one, tap OK, save that. So it's a fixed height because the height is based upon the image that we exported out of Adobe Illustrator and saved onto our iPhone. I've got 6 reveals. I'm going to sort the lotto numbers from the lowest number to the highest number, and the last number I enter is going to be the Powerball. I'll turn off Insert Image from Google because that's not relevant for a lotto prediction. I'm going to print 10 line feeds after we print the lotto ticket. I'll save it to my photo library. I'll send it to Scribe. I won't send it to FTP, and I won't save onto the web. I'm going to click on the background image so we can see that we're going to print this information. It's not showing the color information because I've already printed the color information. The background image is all the black that we're going to print. So I can hide the background. That's just what's going to change, but we're going to print the whole lot. And I'm just going to change these tickets here, all these reveals. So I'll put placeholder information in there. I'm going to change that because I actually want these tickets to be formatted. So if I use the format command, so equals. Now, if you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, you can format numbers in a spreadsheet. We've adopted the same approach here. So equals 00 does not mean we're putting 00 into this reveal. The 00 just means that we're going to format this with a leading 0. So if I put it, so my first reveal, it says equal 00. That means if I send it the number 1, on the paper it will print 01. If I send it 10, there's 2 zeros, so there could be 10. If I send it 5, it'll be 05. If I send it 55, it would just be 55. So I'm going to do that for each of these reveals here because I want them all to be 0 padded. So this is going to be equal 00. Same for this one. So you need to keep in mind that the image process is being developed to work for a whole range of different scenarios. Lotto tickets is one example. It could be taxi receipts, it could be grocery receipts, it could be a boarding pass, and each of those different types of printed reveals have different characteristics. If we were printing, say, a currency instead of lotto numbers, then we'd probably format that currency differently. We might want to have a pound symbol or a dollar sign in front. So again, I'm just changing each of these reveals so that it pops up with equals 00, 0. Almost done, and then of course on the Powerball. And done. So we've got all of our lotto numbers inserted in the right position. All the lotto numbers have been formatted to have a leading 0. So I'm then going to exit from my editor, click on save, save that again, and let's try it. So we've got the Michigan Lotto. I'm going to set my design to the Michigan Lotto. We're going to send a manual message. I'm going to just insert our pre-printed paper. So I'll put the paper in. I'm just going to type in lotto numbers. So we'll do 11, 12, do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our 6 lotto numbers. Send it to image processing. Once I send it, it's going to print the black that we had there plus the lotto numbers. We're not printing the background obviously because we've already pre-printed the color background here. So it renders it, downloads it. We see that the job's been printed. And there we go. So we've got our lotto numbers all prepared and printed. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And that's it. That is how you customize your own lotto ticket with your own revelations.